Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of WrestleZone, and today I am joined by the Princess Diana of professional wrestling. Jetta, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you very much. And yourself?
I'm fantastic to be chatting with you. Like I was saying off air, it's a little bittersweet because a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about today is kind of the bookends of your career and revolving around that. For those who don't know, Jetta and her tag team partner, real life tag team partner as well, Charlie Morgan, will be retiring at Pro Wrestling Eves once more with Feeling event on Friday, June 7th. Big event coming up. But before we get into that, we got to reel it back a little bit, Jetta, and how this kind of all got set up. I spoke obviously with Charlie Morgan ahead of Pro Wrestling Eve's Wrestle Mania event where she faced Alex Windsor in a loser leaves Eve match. What a battle. Obviously, Charlie did not end up victorious in that. But like I said, what a freaking battle that was. We
Yeah.
saw a little homage to Cactus Jack from Alex Windsor. It was no DQ, no time limit. I mean, watching that, spectating that, being there live, tell us about that experience of the battle between Charlie and Alex.
As a wrestler, watching the match, taking myself out of it, it was like a phenomenal match. As myself, horrific because obviously it's Charlie who is my wife, and then Alex who is Charlie's best friend. And I obviously knew Alex before I was with Charlie, but then of course, your partner's friends become your friends. So yeah, watching Alex also in that match was, it was a little bit scary because I had to. So usually when Charlie will do like matches, well, she hasn't done too many like hardcore style matches, but if I know she's doing something crazy, then usually I'll sort of be sat with the girls backstage. I might sometimes watch it like at the side or whatever, but it just depends on what type of match. But I can walk away if something's on. I can look away. But because I knew I had to get involved, I had to watch because I was obviously looking for my cues. So yeah, it was scary to watch, especially when Alex first started bleeding because that was a lot of blood. And the the second time I got involved was obviously after she was bleeding, and I can't describe to you, like, when I came up to the ring apron, all I could smell was iron, and then like, getting into the ring, all I could see were these like bright red pools of blood, and then knowing that I then had to attack her, I was like, oh, I didn't want to hit her. I didn't want to. I just felt awful, and yeah, like after the match, obviously you get home and whatnot. I think I was in the ring for like probably 30 seconds with her after she was bleeding, and the amount of blood that came out of my hair was insane. So I messaged her and I was like, Jesus, like, I think I've just, a pint of your blood has just gone down my plug hole. So God knows like what it's going to be like for you. But yeah, no, I think the match itself was epic, and I think the thing with them both as well is like they've obviously been on this massive journey together through wrestling. They've been through a lot of like good times and hard times with each other. Injuries and things like that have stopped them from, they both sort of revamped themselves and went under, they didn't start as Charlie Morgan and Alex Windsor. They started under different names. They both broke out under those new names, and they never really, their paths never really crossed because one was injured when the other one wasn't, and vice versa. And I know that from their perspective, they're a bit gutted that they didn't get to wrestle as many times as they would have liked to, but they wrestled two times. One time was the first ever women's match in Dubai, which was fantastic. And then the second match was the loser leaves Eve match. And I just think, like, why would you, like, those two matches are so special. I almost think it's better that way. But yeah, the match was amazing, amazing. I think it was everything they wanted and more, because they obviously felt a lot of pressure as well going into it.
Absolutely. I didn't really know what I knew obviously going in, it's loser leaves Eve. Everyone's
Mm.
going to leave everything on the line, give everything they've got. But even then, I still didn't expect, as much blood and, you know, the
Yeah,
craziness that ensued, but it is no DQ, so we also should have known that they were gonna
yeah,
go way above our
yeah,
expectations and all of that, and I
yeah,
think they definitely delivered.
yeah,
You know, they've been friends, they've been foes, but they've always had that, you know, that tie and that chemistry with each
yeah.
other. I'm so curious from your own career, you know, you've had 2 different we'll talk about the segments of your career because you had your initial run and then returning in 2016. What has been the bloodiest match or most violent match you've been involved in?
I've always avoided that type that type of match. Um, for me, I don't know. Do you know what? One time I did split myself open when I wrestled Rhea on one of the first Eve shows back, which
Mhm.
probably would have been about you probably would have been 2016. And it was a mistake. I took a drop toe hold on the Eve belt, and I was like, oh, want to make this look good. And I was like feeling the belt before we went out, and I was like, it's pretty smooth, like it's be fine. Like, yeah, it might hurt a bit, but it's not gonna, it's a drop toe hold. So I take the drop toe hold. So I'm like running at her as if I'm gonna hit her with it. And then as I run at her, she drop toe holded me, and then I go onto the belt. And as I've hit the belt, like the curve of the plate has gone perfectly into my hairline and just straight away, blood everywhere. And when I went backstage, everyone just assumed that I bladed because it was like perfectly on my hairline. Like it couldn't been. It looked like
Yeah.
a blade job. But that was one of them where it was like I landed and I felt the blood, but I just assumed it was sweat. And then I kind of like looked up, and Sarah was taking photos, and I remember looking up and looking at her, and she just went, and I was like, and then I like looked at Rhea, and Rhea was like, and then I went like that, and I was like, oh. But thankfully it was near the end of the match, so yeah. That's
Yeah.
and I have this thing with my nose where my nose will just like I used to get nosebleeds a lot as a kid,
Yeah.
and I've got like weak blood vessels. So sometimes if it's really humid, it just starts bleeding, and and it happens all the time, obviously under the lights and stuff with wrestling. So there's like with Dan, there's always a running joke. He's like fucking knows, but if I'm wrestling in a match and I can feel it going, I'll try and wait until somebody hits me, and then I'll just let it go. So it like looks like it's come from the hip when it just naturally be. But it's not. It's never really like loads of blood. But yeah, that would probably be the bloodiest
You're still kind of
ever.
used to it. Your everyday life is more bloody than your whole wrestling career. That's crazy, actually, if you think about
Yeah.
it. That's crazy, dude. Um,
Yeah.
you know, obviously going back to the end of Loser Leaves Eve, obviously that was an emotional moment. And then obviously Dan and Emily made the announcement that that was not Charlie's last match, her last match, and your last match will obviously be at Pro Wrestling Eve once more with Feeling coming up on June 7th. You know, what an emotional announcement. And not only that, it will also be in 6 women tag team competition with your longtime tag team partner, Aaron Angel. Wrestle Friends is reuniting. So is Medusa Complex and also Nina Samuels. So, first of all, how going back to that moment, the crowd is obviously not expecting that. They're thinking that it's, you know, it might be Charlie's last match in Eve, but not retirement necessarily. How did the crowd react to that announcement? Take us back to that, you know, the announcement of your impending retirement and the environment.
I think that because Charlie is and myself were so embedded in Eve, I
Yeah.
think everyone just assumed that Charlie wasn't going to lose. And obviously Alex played into it quite a lot because I think she had like well timed. There was like a New Japan match that was coming up like a week after or something.
Yes.
So obviously then she's tweeting all these New Japan things, and we're like, yes, like all like the three of us are like, haha, like people are definitely not going to believe that, like they're going to think that it's Alex is like moving, or she's maybe not doing as many like of the independents or whatever. So yeah, we knew that people would think that Charlie was going to win.
I was one of those people, can say.
Which is what, to be fair, and that was Dan, because originally we said, Charlie said that she wanted her last singles match at Eve to be against Alex, and it was Dan who was like, "Why don't you do it as Loser Leaves?" And Charlie was like, "Oh, yeah, but do I really want to do that?" Like, because we knew that we were going to be doing the tag actually as our last match. And then the more they sort of thought about it, they were like, actually, like it adds to the match, like kind of then almost gives reason for the amount of drama. It adds drama, but it also like
Yeah.
allows for the violence that they were gonna get into. But also people probably wouldn't think that Charlie was gonna lose. So yeah. And then I did say like, oh, Charlie said, I'll just cut, at the end, I'll cut a bit of a promo and then I'll just say about you. And I was like, I don't think people are going to get, are you sure people will get what that means? And she was like, yeah, they'll get what it means. And they did. So yeah, it was emotional. It was an emotional day. On that show, I had my last singles match in Eve, which was against Emerson Jane. And that, again, I asked for that. That was what I wanted. It's been quite nice, actually, because Dan's just let us do what we want. Like, we're just allowed to pick who we want and wrestle who we want. And actually, a couple of fans did come up to me and say that when I wrestled Emerson, they thought that Charlie was going to win. But then when they watched that match with Emerson, they were like, I think Charlie's going to lose. Because I wanted to have a match that was like like the old matches that I used to have in Eve, like the Resgal matches, like the comedy matches where I was like probably more of a baby face, really. And obviously in Eve recently, we've been like more like arsehole heels. But I wanted to have like that kind of match again. So I think some of the fans were like, why has she just kind of gone back to like, it's a bit random? And I think they were like, something's going on. So yeah, maybe let the cat out of the bag a little bit there. But yeah, and then yeah, when we announced it, obviously there was shock, which we expected. But yeah, that was, we always said, that we would have our last match in Eve. Eva's given me so much. Like, I mean, throughout my career, even back to when I wrestled before, I wrestled for Dan quite a lot, and the landscape was totally different. It was really fighting a losing battle trying to get people to invest in Eve, and obviously to see what it is today is like night and day. But yeah, since coming back in 2016, I've wrestled like people that I never even thought I'd ever be able to meet, let alone wrestle. And yeah, so it was always going to be Eve. And yeah, Dan said to us, if you could pick your ideal match, what would it be? And straight away, those were the people that there's no one else. But obviously there's the logistics of that because Charlie Evans is in Australia. So we weren't sure if that was going to be able to happen, but thankfully it's worked out. So yeah, we're really, really excited. Really excited.
Well, that kind of perfectly segues because like Eve said on Twitter and on social media, you handpicked, all your opponents, and obviously Aaron naturally came along as well, I have to assume. Like we said, you will be facing Charlie Evans, Millie McKenzie, and the Eve champion, now Nina Samuels. Tell us about the process of, you said it was pretty easy, but tell us about the process of choosing your final match opponents in the form of Medusa Complex and Nina Samuels.
Yeah, so originally it was like, okay, Royal Aces have never wrestled Medusa Complex, so we were like, okay, well, we need to do that match because
officially, yes.
Yeah, that's never happened.
Yeah.
And then as we were sort of talking about it, I was like, can't we have Erin as well? I was like saying to Charlie, like, I really want Erin to be involved. And then we were like, maybe Erin should be the ref. Like, maybe Erin should just like, maybe we could ask Erin to be the ref, or maybe we could ask Erin to like manage us. And I was like, but Erin's not had like a proper send off in Eve. I was like, so, and I don't know what Erin's plans are or what she wants to do in the future, but she's not really, wrestling. I don't think really she might do the odd sort of small
She's
like kind of
done
family show.
she's only done two
Yeah,
matches since after she got pregnant in like
yeah,
2019ish. She's only had two
yeah,
matches. One of them was a Rumble. The other was obviously the dark
yeah,
match with you and her against Medusa Complex.
yeah.
But yeah, other than that, it's only been two. Yeah.
And she's got like two kids now, so yeah, I don't know what she's planning to do. So we were, and I was like, oh no, I kind of think it'd be nice to tag with her. And then we were like, okay, so if it's us and Erin, then who would be the third person? We were like, well, Nina, like, because she's been such a big part of Charlie's career. Obviously, the coming out promo, she cashed in the briefcase to win the title from Charlie. They've had like lots of matches, and I'm sure Charlie said it before. It's probably no secret, but originally when Charlie was going to come back after the ankle and return after COVID, the match was the match was supposed to be against Nina Samuels, but with the whole WWE thing, obviously that couldn't go onto the streaming service, so that didn't happen. But like during lockdown and when we were preparing to come back, we would, like, Nina would come up and stay with us, and we'd rent out a local ring, and we'd go and train with her, because she was still, you know, wrestling all the time, so she was a good person to kind of get in the ring with and kind of get the ring rust off. So and also, like, you know, I've wrestled Nina a lot. She's also a really good friend of ours, which obviously plays into it as well. And yeah, it couldn't be anyone else. And also, you know, when Charlie was doing all the WWE stuff as well, her and Nina used to room, so, you know, they're really close. We went to each other's weddings. You know, we're real life friends as well. So yeah, and I think Nina was saying that when she sort of found out what we were doing, she was like, do you know what? If I am honoured that you asked me, but if you didn't ask me, I would have been pissed off. so, so it's the right choice. The right choice.
You know, before you were talking about kind of the dichotomy of your characters in Eve. Obviously, recently you've been a little bit more Healy. Earlier, before, well, I guess you've been kind of wavering between both. But
Yeah.
I don't think I've told you this. Maybe we talked about it last time. But Pro Wrestling Eve was actually my official introduction into like independent wrestling. Like,
Yeah, I think I
I
remember you saying that. Yeah.
yeah. Because it was during Super Shedown 2019, and obviously that was towards the end of Erin's, you know, run before she retired. But the first, you were talking about, you know, more comedic. The first match I remember was you and Erin against Viper and Kaylee Ray, and that I don't even know what the stipulation was, but it was a crazy tag team match. We got Twister, we got Hungry Hippos, we got Jump Rope. I was like, this is the coolest thing that I have like ever, like, nobody does it like Eve. So I'm very
Yeah, that's
grateful.
true.
I am very grateful that that was my first exposure to independent wrestling. It really got me hooked on it. So I have a very attachment to Eve and yourself, you know, and the whole company in general. So I hope you know that. I mean, I'm not from the UK, so I really would have had no way else to watch it. But I'm so glad I came across that week. Super
Yeah,
She Down. I know it's happened not only to me, but a bunch of other people that have discovered Eve in recent years. What a fantastic company, you know, honestly, not only
yeah.
for women's wrestling, but indie wrestling too.
It is, because I think the thing is with Eve, and you know, I bang on about this so much because I just think that, like, nobody does it like Eve. Like, it's a wrestling show, but it's almost like a cabaret show. Like, we're encouraged by Dan to be weird and to think outside the box and do something slightly different and have fun. And I also think that if an audience can see that you are having fun, they will have fun with you. Like, I always equate it to, obviously you don't want to mess up your moves and you don't want to like botch, but like, it's like when you go and see like a theatre show and someone messes up their lines and then they ad lib something and someone makes somebody else laugh. Like, you almost feel like you're in on something that no one else got to see, because you had to be there on that night to see it. And I feel like Eve is like that. Dan just allows us to try things, and that's the other thing as well. Like, a lot of the time with, I feel like with wrestling nowadays, because everything is streamed, everything is gift, everything is on Twitter and whatever, people are really scared to like sort of risk trying something different, because if it fails, like, it fails. And you know, it yeah, can affect you in some ways, but you have to try things and fail to find things that work really well. And like, a lot of the things that I've done in Eve have been things that I've just sort of thought, oh, let's see if this happens, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You just move on and you try something else. But I feel like there's not a lot of companies that, one, allow people to do that, two, allow females to do it. Because I mean, and I'll get on my soapbox about it, but I still think that it's absolutely mad that in 2024 there are so many promotions where, one, there's only one women's match on a show, and two, it's get 6 minutes curtain to curtain. And it's just like, what are we doing with that? Like, what like, yeah, of course, people are not invested in the women's division because you're not giving them time to tell a story to get people invested. It's simple as. And do you know what? I haven't seen it. But a perfect example is Super Strong Style this weekend. Progress like to talk about how they invest in their women's division. They don't. They give them 5 minutes. I've been on their shows. I've had tag matches where we get 10 minutes and there's 4 of us, curtain to curtain. What are we doing with that? Like, you can't tell a proper story. This weekend, they had a 4-way ladder match and they gave them time, and everyone's talking about how it was the match of the weekend. There's your proof. You give the girls time to actually do something and actually tell a story, and not tell them they can't do this move and they can't do that move. And look what happens. It's the best match of the weekend, because the girls have a lot of the time in this country and all the other countries, you know, on the independents, have really defined characters. They really differentiate themselves from each other. They've got really clear, defined, different gear, different entrance music. So they are marketable and people can connect with them, but they're only going to do that if you give them the time to do it. So, you know, that, and it still happens now. It's mad. Yeah. You know, Rev Pro's another example. Look at the match with Alex Windsor and Danny Luna. Everyone was raving about it because for once they actually gave the women time on a show and actually made it something that they pushed rather than just a throwaway match that gets 4 minutes. Like, I don't understand how these promoters, like, how many times do they have to be shown until they start listening? And Eve is a perfect example. Eve stands alone. Like, Eve is not like every other wrestling promotion. The biggest compliment you can give to Eve is it's not even like a wrestling promotion. Like, when you wrestle there, you will have half of the audience will be people that are just there for a bit of a laugh and a night out. They've never been to a wrestling show before. And you'll hear them all saying to each other, oh my God, we're coming back to the next one. Like, that was so cool. And then you'll also have fans that follow it every single month and that know the characters inside out. And, you know, they've been going to the Eve show since 2017. Both types of fan are completely opposite spectrums, but both types of fans go away from that show not feeling like they've been shortchanged. And that's a testament to the way it's booked and, you know, Dan giving people the chance to go out there and, you know, tell stories and try things out and do something a bit different or outside of the box.
And that's exactly what got me hooked onto Eve. You know, Jamie Hayter versus Britt Baker was the first one I ever saw. Obviously, great match. And then I saw, obviously, you and Aaron against Viper and Kaylee Ray. There's just like, it's like there's all around. There's like every kind of, I don't even know how to explain it. There's different types of matches for everybody to kind of, you know, satisfy everybody. It's all around. It's not just the same uniform kind of match for each thing, different styles, different, you know, moments, humors, and all of that. So I think that's why I was really drawn to it. It was something that I hadn't seen before. And so I'm very grateful that I discovered Eve when I did. But, you know, now as you're looking forward, you know, we talked about before, you and Charlie obviously retired before, obviously for different reasons. But when you look back in 2016 up until now, do you think that this run lived up to the expectations or goals that you originally set for yourself upon your 2016 return?
Oh, it like massively exceeded anything I ever could have thought that I would get to do. I mean, when I came back in 2016, it was just sort of to have a bit of fun, you know, see what happens, you know, just have a bit of fun and enjoy it. Because, you know, when I wrestled before, don't get me wrong, like I had some amazing moments and I got to do some like phenomenal things, but towards the back end of it, like I wasn't enjoying it and I became, you know, quite bitter towards it. So I just wanted to enjoy it and have fun. And you know, like I'd say the main thing that I got to do was like Manami Toyota is like hands down the best wrestler, regardless of gender, ever. Like, she is just on another level. Like, to me, like her and Shawn Michaels are like they're up here and everyone else is, you know, doesn't matter how good you are, like they are just like the pinnacle. And to get to like be on a show with her and meet her was like amazing, but to get to wrestle her was like, like just I never in my wildest dreams. Like I remember being like 14 years old when I first started training, and I only sort of knew like what WWE was. I didn't really, know. I knew that there was kind of other wrestling, but I didn't really know a lot about it. Like you couldn't just, you know, go on Twitter or go on YouTube because it didn't exist, and that's how old I am. So I remember like going to training, and one of the trainers gave me this tape, and it was of Manami Toyota, and I remember watching it and just being like, what the hell? Like this what, who is this? And like from then I was just like, she is like inspirational. Like, and even though, I never wrestled that type of that type of style, it's like that is what I as a 14-year-old girl needed to see, because what was on my TV was, bra and panties, and the women were just managers, and nothing against them, they worked with what they had. And I would find it frustrating because I would sometimes watch matches and I'd be like, I know that they can do all this cool stuff, like why are they not given enough time? And then obviously the more then you learn about wrestling, you hear about, well, they had their matches cut, or they weren't allowed to do this, or they were told don't hit too hard, it's not ladylike, blah blah blah, and things like that. But at that age I needed somebody like that for me to see and be like, okay, I can be a woman in wrestling, and I can wrestle, and I can try these things and do these things. And I don't, it's not just this one type of wrestling. So to do that was like amazing. And I sort of tried to tell her that story, but she didn't speak very good English, but Emmy translated for me, so hopefully that kind of got across. And yeah, like I got to wrestle Jazz as well, who was another one of my heroes. And yeah, cool moment there was I remember like she was like, oh, like in the match she was like, she uses like the punches and the jabs, and like as she's doing the jabs, like I'm like, okay, so I know what this is. She's like 1, 2, and on the third one I took a bump, and she was like, oh, thanks for taking the bump on that. I was like, I know your moveset. Like, it's not because I'm good, it's because I know your moveset, and I know that that's what you would have wanted me to do. And yeah, me and Rhea had a match on that was like a she won, and we had a match on the 4th show, and it was like this like big epic, like, am I gonna get, was it 2 points? Am I gonna get 2 points?
Yeah.
And it was like right at the end, like I got the pin, and like there was like this massive reaction, and we came backstage, and like Jazz was like giving us all these compliments, and like she turned away, and we just looked at each other, and we were like, oh, and then she turned back, and we were like, so that was cool. And then just random stuff as well, like I don't know if you know what it is, but we have a thing at Reading Festival. It's just like a music festival. Kate Nash, that was in Glow, asked us to come and do like something at the start of her show, and Dan was like, oh, do you want to do it? Actually, that's a good. So originally she started coming to the Eve shows when they were at the ResGal, and this was around like when it was coming up to Wrestle Queendom 1, and originally he was trying to get her to wrestle, and we were going to wrestle. We were going to have I think a best out of 3. It was going to be a singing competition, something else, and then a match, but it never happened. So yeah, we sort of had like a couple of little things at the shows that she came to. So when she was like, oh, I want to do something like opening my set, and Dan was like, oh, will you do it? And I was like, yeah, but ask her if I can sing, see if I can, like, because they wanted me to come out and like be a heel, and then she like beats me up. I was like, oh, ask her if it's okay if I like come out and like sing. So I thought, then when am I ever going to get the opportunity to say I was, headlined Reading Festival? So we've got to give it a go. I can't sing, by the way, as I'm sure you've seen on the Eve shows. So she agreed to it. I was like, brilliant. So yeah, her band start playing, and then I just come out, sing her big hit song. She comes out, but like we got Erin involved in it as well. So like it was really funny because we were like, how are we going to do this? And Erin was like, I'll do a crossbody onto you, like, but off a speaker. And then we could see the like stage hands were like looking, and I was like, Dan was like, don't ask them, just do it. So she climbed up on this like massive speaker that was like 15 foot in the air, and I'm like on the stage, have to like catch her, and then like turn around and get body slammed by Kate Nash onto the stage. It was so brilliant. And yeah, like we did like a day, like there's like a daytime TV show here called Lorraine. I got to do that was with Erin and Rhea as well, which was really cool. And just reconnecting with Erin has been really nice, because we both started at the same time. We wrestled a lot back before, it was nice to do something together. It was nice to also have Erin never really wrestled on the sort of like cool indie shows, so it was nice for Erin to kind of get recognition and get to do those types of things as well, because she deserves it. She's fucking put the work in. And then obviously like just reconnecting with Erin, getting to wrestle people like Kaylee, Viper, Tony, like Jamie, like there's just a who's who. Like that Eve roster was like untouchable. Like every single person, like you would turn up to a show and there would just be like, one time like Mary Apache was randomly on the show. Like then you and then you've got like Command Bolshaw, you've got Leon, you got these like you're just like fucking hell, like, Dan, who you Miko, like getting to wrestle Miko for 30 seconds was still I got to wrestle Miko, like it's just mad. But the biggest thing obviously is I knew Charlie before, but that's where our relationship blossomed at Eve. That's where we got to know each other. So Eve is so special to me in so many ways.
Anyways, I feel like you and Eve, for me anyway, you're kind of synonymous with Eve. Obviously tag team champion, Eve champion as well. Why do you think now was the right time for you and Charlie to officially retire?
I always said that like I probably would only wrestle for a few more years, like a couple of years ago. I know in terms of like the way wrestling is at the moment, and it's fantastic that I'm technically not old because there are a lot of people that are my age and still wrestling at my age, but I'm 37 this year. And I just want to stop while I'm enjoying it. I think I'm really conscious of before I wrestled until I hated it, and I don't want to get to that point. Like I'm really enjoying it. I do love it, but I also sort of feel like it's just time for me to step away. And it's not something that I've taken lightly. Obviously, it's a big thing to decide to do. It was always going to be this year. It was just where that lined up, and the way that it lined up with Charlie Evans coming over. It just lined up perfectly. So, and that was the match that we wanted. And I just think that although it's sad, everyone has to have a last match, like,
Yes.
and you want it to be on your terms, and to be able to have my last match at a promotion that I hold really dearly, to be able to pick the people that are in the match, not a lot of people get that. So you want to strike while the iron's hot and while you can do that. But yes, we're stepping away. It will definitely do our bodies good. However you try and take care of yourself, injuries, they don't go away. They're still there, and you want to be able to enjoy the rest of your life and not be in pain, and not push it too much. But we will always be around Eve. We won't be wrestling, but we will pop in. We will say hello. I'm sure you'll hear us on commentary from time to time. Like, we're not going to completely disappear. Like I say, Eve is, really important to both of us. The girls, are really important to both of us. There's a lot of like really, really good girls coming through now as well. And that's the other thing as well, if I'd say saying that your heart's not in it is probably it's not that my heart's not in it, but if I know that I'm not going to be doing it for a long time and it's not something that I'm, as fully invested in, then I should step aside and let somebody else take that spot. Because that's just the way wrestling works, isn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously healing your bodies after professional wrestling. What are some of your other personal and professional plans for life after professional wrestling? Or I should say in-ring competition, because like you said, you're not going to be nobody's ever truly fully gone from
No,
wrestling.
no one ever leaves. Do you know what? Just having a normal life, just seeing family and friends, traveling, just just relaxing and just doing normal, boring everyday things that are just nice to do. No major plans, and but just
Cat
being able
cat
to heal our
momming
bodies.
too.
Catwoman, yeah, yeah.
Two more questions for you. You obviously mentioned the Eve locker room. We've been seeing a lot of new names, obviously influx of new wave talent throughout the last couple of years, especially after the pandemic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People getting chances for the first time and they become regular fixtures. Who are some people, whether it's from Eve or just the UK scene in general, that you think more people should be taking notice of or paying attention to going forward?
Oh god, there's so many. I think at the moment, when you look at the Eve roster and you look at some of the people that have been mainstays, it's now with a lot of people leaving, not just me and Charlie, but other people as well. It's time for them to now step up and take those leadership roles. Sky is a phenomenal wrestler. She makes everyone look good, and she has really come into her own as well over the past like few years or year. I feel like she knows herself and her character, and that really shines through, and you can see that she's enjoying herself. And I think, again, people can tell when you feel comfortable and you're enjoying yourself, and that translates into your performance, and I think that she's got that nailed. Same with Nightshade. It's great to see her back and getting more involved, and now seeing LA Taylor come in as well. I think LA Taylor is going to be huge. Like, she has the best attitude. She looks like a fucking wrecking machine. She's only going to get more hench, so feel sorry for all those girls.
She is the demolition woman, so she has to
She
be.
is.
Got to live up to that name.
Exactly. But no, she has something special, and she just needs the confidence, to be honest, because she's got it all. She just needs the belief in herself. And I'm so happy that she's going off to Japan, and that's going to be the start of something really big for her. Sapphire, again, she's gone from this kid, she's still a kid, but
Very
this
shy
kid,
introvert
yeah,
to now,
yeah,
Eve champion. She won and won the Eve championship. Yeah.
exactly. And I'm glad I got to have a singles match with her at least once. And we did like a bit of a squash match with her in a tag, myself and Charlie, and the difference between her in that match and the singles match is like night and day. I think Nina Samuels is a big part of that, in helping her kind of like, again, just being confident in her own ability and finding what it is that works for her. And you can see the evolution of that over the last like few months with the gear change, the attitude, like being able to do promos. And again, that goes back to Dan. Like, she probably didn't want to do promos, but Dan was like, well, you want to do more, you want to kind of like get out there a bit more, you need to do promos. And now look at her, she's doing promos on every show, and that will help her confidence. And again, you're not going to get that anywhere else than Eve. God, there's just so many people I think, although I only saw her briefly, Anita Vaughan, I think, has definitely got something. She just has this charisma, I think, and she will go far. And again, a lot of that is because she's working with somebody
Debbie
who is also
Keitel.
extremely underrated, and Debbie Keitel. And again, that's another person like Debbie Keitel always has something different or new every few months, whether it's new gear, new catchphrase. First of all, you've got the woke queens. That was brilliant, like really clever. And now it's the gals. Like, that's really clever and a great play. On a kind of like bitchy heel gimmick. And she's another person that, like, I think because she's just always there and she's just so good, like, she almost gets taken for granted. But she can do she's fantastic at comedy, but she can be like a really like serious badass baby face and a heel. Session Moth is just the Session Moth. Like, I
Yeah.
love her. Yeah. I'm gonna miss wrestling Session Moth. Like, I am gonna miss wrestling her so much. But yeah, I think the future's bright. There's probably a lot of people I've missed out, but those are the people that kind of straight away spring to mind. And Nina Samuels goes without saying, but I'm not going to say anything more nice about her.
Okay. Well, before we officially send you off into the sunset, Jetta, do you have a final message for the fans at Eve and everybody who's followed your career throughout the years?
Just thank you for every tweet, every like, any kind of engagement for buying merch. Yeah, it's been amazing. I've had the best time, and like I say, it's not sad. It's not like we're probably all gonna cry, but it's not sad. Like, not a lot of people get to go out the way we're going to go out, and we're not going to be strangers. We're still going to be around. And again, like I said at Eve a couple of months ago, if you're going to do anything for us, continue to support Eve, because there will be another Jetta that will come through who's 5,000 times better than I am, or and they will just continue to come through the door. There'll be another Charlie. There's always new people coming through. There's always something new and special coming through the doors at Eve. And yeah, if you enjoyed watching us, then continue to watch, because there'll be more people that start coming through the door that you'll enjoy to watch as well.
Well, Jetta, before we let you go, please let the listeners know where they can find you on social media. And obviously, don't forget to check out Jetta and Charlie Morgan and Aaron Angel taking on Medusa Complex and Nina Samuels. You got to give us it once more with feeling, Jetta. Before we
Well,
let you go, let the listeners know where they can find you on social media.
so it's Jetta_wrestle on Instagram and Twitter, and my big cartel is also in my bio if you would like to buy any merch.
Yes. Jetta, it's been an honor to follow your career throughout these last couple of years. I can't wait to go back into the archives. Just know this is not the end, because nobody ever truly retires from
No
wrestling.
one ever
We'll
leaves. Yeah.
probably see Jetta on commentary or doing, I don't know, some running or managing. I don't know yet. We'll
I
see.
personally think that Dan should be Jetta in the next Multiverse Rumble. I can lend him my gear.
Oh my God. I love that.
You've heard it here first. Dan?
Dan, you got to step up. Oh, that'd be so fun. Jetta, I mean, congratulations. Obviously, best of luck to you in whatever you decide to do next. But for now, enjoy the time afterwards. Get some time to relax. We'll see you in the near future. Jetta, thank you so much again.
Thank you.